Save a life.
There is an understandable anger in our country against whoever is responsible for this week's outrage. But we want to be certain that this righteous anger is not misplaced. John Blackstone reports.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
In California's Silicon Valley, the Islamic call to prayer does not go unheeded.
My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I would like to greet you with the Islamic greeting.
They are high-tech engineers and computer programmers, laborers and students, Americans by birth and recent immigrants.
We are as much in grief as any common American citizen which is grieving and crying on this tragedy.
But these Muslims worry some may blame them because of how they worship or where they come from.
This is what America is all about. It's a nation of immigrants. We're all immigrants.
You have an American family.
Yes, they are truly American.
Malika Khan has 5 American children. One of her sons was on the staff of a California congressman and has now gone on to work at the White House. You must have worried when you heard that maybe the White House was a target.
You won't believe how much I was worried. I was shaking.
Among the other Americans at the mosque was Wahid Kazem, a member of the Santa Clara Police Department. What does it mean to be an American?
For me, it means life, because I lost my initial life back in Afghanistan. And everything that I have, everything that I am is as a result of this country.
He served in the U.S. Army and will never forget the day he became an American citizen.
It hurts that at times people look at me still and they don't see that. And I know that in a lot of people's eyes, I will never be an American.
When you haven't done anything wrong, how do you prove you're innocent?
For Carol Hayashino, comparing the World Trade Center to Pearl Harbor has led to other thoughts. How Americans of Japanese descent were rounded up to spend the war in internment camps. They were suspect because they looked like the enemy.
When my father left camp, he took 2 of these signs off the fence post as a reminder.
This time, Carol Hayashino says, America must remember not to unleash anger on the innocent.
Hate and violence is not American. What's American is hope. And you see it on those families' faces in New York. And you see it in the firefighters that are looking for a survivor. That's what America's about.
Correspondent John Blackstone. From President Bush on down, there has been talk of war over the past few days. And at war, we most certainly appear to be. But with whom, exactly? Afghanistan seems the immediate and most obvious answer. Alan Pizzi has that story.
If America goes to war with Afghanistan, the battle will pit the world's richest nation against one of the poorest. The country devastated by more than 20 years of continuous warfare.
I think it's already the Stone Age.
Yeah.
I mean, 80% of Kabul was destroyed, and just the journey to the clinic, we're always just amazed at how much rubble, how much, there's still tanks which are strewn, and just the evidence of war is all around.
Go back down to this one here.
Which one?
Vicky and Mark Timlin spent the last 7 months in Afghanistan. The head office of their charity, Hope Worldwide, ordered them to leave after the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Afghanis, they say, were as stunned by the attacks as everyone else.
They wanted to feel the grief of the Americans as well. That there definitely wasn't a sense of jubilation that this happened. There was a sense of, wow, this is terrible. And they just wanted to know exactly what the images were like, how the planes crashed, how many people died.
The Timlins believe it is Afghan culture that provides Osama bin Laden his best protection.
They see him as a guest and they'll protect him, they'll look after him, and that's just the general culture. They do that with anyone.
Osama bin Laden is a Saudi Arabian who went to Afghanistan to fight the Soviets after they invaded in 1979. The shadowy figure, who is known to hide in caves, is believed to be the youngest son of 24 brothers in a family whose hugely successful construction business earned him a fortune believed to exceed $200 million. He used it in the Afghan refugee camps of Pakistan to recruit and train dedicated young fighters, slowly building a fanatical network of his own called Al-Qaeda, the base. The problem for the U.S. is that the name is just that, a name. Bin Laden has no real base, no sitting target. And even if he could be killed, it wouldn't necessarily mean the end of Al-Qaeda. Bin Laden is as much a phenomenon as he is a man, one expert here said, and you can't kill an idea. And he has an heir apparent, a trusted lieutenant whose son recently married one of bin Laden's daughters. The ceremony was one of the last times bin Laden was seen in public. His followers train with video games like this one, shooting at former President Clinton. No small irony in light of the fact that bin Laden began with American help. The CIA and other Western intelligence services were supplying hardware and training to the Afghan fighters bin Laden recruited to fight the Soviets. Just as it was then, ordinary Afghanis seem resigned to the next phase of U.S. involvement in their country, Vicky Timlin says. Another case of here we go again.
70% of the nation, the population, is women and children. So obviously these are the most vulnerable because so many of the men have died in so many years of war. They've just gone out to fight.
And if it does come to a war, the fight will be a desperate one.
If they fight, they definitely fight very hard, and they fight to the end.
They don't have a fear of dying?
They don't, no, because in their mind, they're just fighting for their country. They're fighting for what's right.
Ahead, America rising, but already changed.
You can look at the world with a sense of hope or futility. And in my opinion, hope is a better companion. And so I hope that one day we will do more for the people of developing nations by answering the cry for family planning services. We will offer health care, contraception, and sex education, and we will watch how this act transforms lives. My hope is that one day there will no longer be a third world. There will only be one world.
As time flows on, there are places we return to again and again. Places that comfort us with their serenity. Places that astound us with their beauty. Places where our memories come to life. Precious places, timeless places, places that with your help can endure forever. I'm Paul Newman. Help the Nature Conservancy save the last great places around the world.
Looking back on this week's awful events, sometimes it's the small details that are the most telling. We have a reporter's notebook from Lee Cowan.
After the violence came the silence. The deafening noise of tragedy blew into a quiet place to rest. In the lobby of a hotel across the street from Ground Zero, the echoes of those no longer here seemed to whisper at every turn. From a reservation computer begging for a login, to a fire alarm begging to be logged off. An elevator propped open, just waiting. There are a host of eerie scenes in the wake of this disaster, but perhaps no place really describes how sudden it all happened than here. This is the restaurant in the Hilton Millennium Hotel at the World Trade Center. At the time of the blast, it was breakfast time. Coffee cups still filled with coffee, breakfast plates now covered in dust. Just fragments of a moment frozen in time. The last moment of what used to be normal.
I was doing my morning walk, and I thought, which at my age is a good idea.
Val Coleman strolled into the World Trade Center at 8:30 Tuesday morning. He walked out just 15 minutes before the first plane hit.
When you were in there, just a normal day, hundreds of people teaming around the building?
People coming in and out, and I walked to the World Trade Center just to inquire about a bus.
By the time he made it back to his apartment, the view at his 39th story window had suddenly changed.
And they're gone. They just not there anymore.
And so had his view of life.
And then you begin to think about the people who were in there at the time of the collapse. And that's terrifying. And it's all taking place exactly in front of you, like a, I don't know, like a Brecht play or something. And just a huge collapse of civilization.
We headed north about half a block, and we heard the roar of the building coming down.
Captain Dennis Tordillo was one of the first on the scene. He and his men didn't meet death on Tuesday, but they now feel guilty that they cheated it.
Another 30 seconds, another floor higher, we wouldn't have gotten out. And with so many dead, why are we here?
All the men in his company came back from the towers, but they came back different.
I want to close my eyes and open them and see the towers. I'm hoping it's a dream, but I have a feeling it's reality. It did happen, correct?
The blessing, some say, about the fog of war is that sometimes not everything is remembered. But like the cloud over Manhattan that hasn't disappeared, the thought of what used to be lingers as well.
Correspondent Lee Cowan. In the long view of history, it may be that September 11th, 2001 will be remembered as the day America's new century began. For on that day, as Rita Braver tells us, we did enter a new era.
Hey guys, you can get some help over here. Carry this guy to the ambulance. Use a little help, no? Get him over there.
I really did think as Americans, we were one of the safest people to see this happen. It's real scary.
Don't go in there. This building's gonna come down.
I think Americans feeling scared and hurt and somewhat lost. I don't think they really thought that it can happen here in America.
The grief, the shock, the outrage are only part of the story.
The battlefield now is here. The other side has learned how to make us a target.
Pulitzer Prize-winning author David Halberstam has written a shelf full of books on U.S. culture and history. He says that Americans who've come to expect free and easy times in the wake of the Cold War's end must start looking at the world in a new way.
We thought we were immune, that our power was applicable everywhere, or that no one dared do anything other than on a relatively small scale. That's over.
And we're only beginning to understand the long-term impact, all the ways in which our daily lives will be affected by the terrible legacy of September 11th, 2001.
IDs, please.
Law enforcement will be more visible on our streets, anxiety higher. The great symbols of America. Now, we fear they are potential targets.
Grand Coulee Dam or Lake Powell and nuclear facilities, or could be other areas. I mean, it kind of opens the mind to all sorts of horrible circumstances.
Access to our landmarks will be more strictly controlled. There are 6-hour waits at some border crossings. Gasoline prices are likely to go up, as often happens when there's a conflict in the Middle East. And of course, air travel will be more tense and cumbersome.
I travel for a living. I'm in sales. I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Though most airports are starting to reopen, Reagan National, closest to the nation's capital, is closed indefinitely.
You know, we are used to dashing through this airport. Show my ID.